Hello all, I'm Divya Rasal and my today's topic is blood components and blood composition and hematopoiesis. So blood. Blood, it is a specialized body fluid, and the four main components of bloods are plasma, red blood cell, white blood cells and platelets. So blood has many different functions that include transportation of nutrients, hormones and oxygen to the cells, and also forming a blood clot that prevent excess of blood flow or blood loss. And it carries cells and antibodies that fight against infection, and also it regulates body temperature. So the component of blood and their importance, I'm going to discuss. So very first is plasma. Plasma is a liquid component of the blood, and it is a mixture of water, sugar, fat, protein, salts. And the main job of the plasma is to transport the blood cells throughout the body, along with the nutrients, also production of antibodies, clotting the protein, chemical messenger. So proteins also help to maintain the body's fluid balance. Then talking about composition of blood. So 55% of the blood, out of blood 55% is plasma, 45% are blood cells. So 55%, 45%, and like 7 to 8% of our total body weight is composed of the blood. So plasma uh, is of 55%. Then second comes RBC. RBC is also called as erythrocytes. They have bright red color, and they get that color because of the heme present in the RBC. RBC are biconcave disc-like structure, and it is disc-like structure, and production of the RBC is controlled by erythropoietin. These are the hormones that mostly produced in the kidney. So RBC's blood cells are survive for 120 days. So these RBCs are the cells that don't have nucleus, and it helps to carry oxygen from lung to the rest of the body, and they contain the special protein called as hemoglobin. And RBC are blood that appear red because of the large number of blood cells which get their color from hemoglobin. So the next one is white blood cells. White blood cells are also called as leukocytes. White blood cells help the cells to protect body from infection. They are much fewer in number than the RBC. According to 1%, means according accounting only 1% of the blood. So most common type of white blood cell is neutrophil. So RBC, WBC are of five types. So they have two categories: granulocyte and agranulocyte. So there are five types, like eosinophil, basophil, neutrophil, and and granulocyte. They are monocytes and lymphocytes. So this is about the WBC. And they also have T lymphocyte and B lymphocyte. So they are the two main population of WBC. Then comes a platelet. It is also called as thrombocyte. Platelets are actually cells, but they are like a small fragment, like a structure. Platelets helps the blood for clotting process, by gathering at the site of injury, or also sticking to the lining of the injured blood vessels. So they prevent blood from leaking out. So this is about the platelets. These are the four main important components of blood. Now we will talk about hematopoiesis. So what is hematopoiesis? So hematopoiesis is a blood cell production. So our blood continuously makes new blood cells and replace the old blood cells, so we can have a steady blood supply. So hematopoiesis start before the birth and continue throughout the life. So to understand it in an easier way, we need to cut the sentence like hematopoiesis. So hemato means, hema means blood, and poiesis means to make in Greek word. So hematopoiesis is the making of blood. So what cells that get made in hematopoiesis? RBC, WBC, and thrombocytes like platelets are made during hematopoiesis. So where hematopoiesis occur? Hematopoiesis, the most common site of blood cell production is in the spongy tissue inside our bone, that is called as bone marrow. Hematopoiesis that occur in our bone marrow is called as medullary hematopoiesis. Blood cell get made in our bone marrow and released into our bloodstream. So hematopoiesis taken place in part of our body like liver, spleen. Hematopoiesis can also occur outside of the bone marrow, and that is called as extramedullary hematopoiesis. So hematopoiesis also take place in different location before birth. So before we are born, so before birth, blood cell production start in uterus only, in the yolk sac. So most of the blood cell toward the end of the pregnancy, most of the blood cell production occurs in our bone marrow. So when baby is in the 3 week, type of blood cells are less slightly developed than the red blood cells that get made during adulthood in yolk sac. So in month 2 and 3, red blood cell and platelets made in our liver and spleen. So and WBC made in liver, spleen, and thymus. Then when we are 5 month old, most of the blood cell production happen in bone marrow. Thymus, spleen, and other limb tissue also make some types of bloods. So after birth, most of the blood cell production happen in bone marrow from infancy into the adulthood. Certain types of WBC called as lymphocyte develop in our thymus too. So hematopoiesis may shift to our blood cell production site before birth, and blood cell production may shift to our liver, spleen, or lymph nodes. So what happened during hematopoiesis is hematopoiesis begins with the originator cells. It is also called as hematopoietic stem cells. So this stem cells develop in precursor cell called as blast cell, and precursor cell is on track become a specific type of blood cell, but it still is in early stage. So precursor cells goes through several cell division and change before it becomes fully mature in blood cells. So there are specific type of hematopoiesis that include erythropoiesis, means red blood cell formation, then leukopoiesis means WBC formation, and thrombopoiesis means thrombocytes, that is platelet formation. And what happened during red blood cell production is that red blood cell produced in our bone marrow, and WBC, although WBC granulocyte, that is basophils, neutrophils, and eosinophils, have slightly different origin from monocyte and lymphocyte. So monocyte, lymphocyte, they follow different paths. So granulocyte made in bone marrow, and monocyte production. So monocyte originate in bone marrow, so in a myeloid cell line, and they develop into the monocyte before maturing into fully monoblast. So lymphocyte develop in lymphoid blood line or cell line. So monocyte develop in myeloid cell line, and lymphocyte develop in lymphoid cell line. So about platelet production occur in bone marrow, where HSC, that is hematopoietic stem cell, mature into precursor cell, that is called as mega karyoblast. So hematopoiesis, so how long this hematopoiesis take place? Our red blood cells survive about 120 days. So after 120 days, again the hematopoiesis take place. White blood cell survive for few hours to few days as well, and platelets survive for 5 to 9 days. So this is how the hematopoiesis process take place. Thank you.